Welcome to week 2. What in God's will is going on? Last week, we talked about defining the will of God. 2307, thélēma. From 2309, thélō. To desire, wish, properly. A desire, wish, often referring to God's preferred will, i.e., his best offer to people, which can be accepted or rejected. Thelēma, focusing on the result hoped for with the particular desire, wish. 2307, thélēma, is nearly always used of God, referring to his preferred will. 2309, thélō, to desire, wish, is commonly used of the Lord extending his best offer to believers, wanting, desiring to birth his persuasion, faith in them, which also empowers and manifests his presence. Last week we talked about Esther. In Esther chapter 4, verses 10 through 17, Esther was presented with God's preferred will, his best offer that could be accepted or rejected. She chose to accept God's best offer, receiving his persuasion of faith, which empowered her to go to the king on behalf of the Israelites. In Acts chapter 21, verses 10 through 15, the Apostle Paul is confronted by a prophet named Agabus with a prophetic word that predicted suffering. But the Apostle Paul, accepting God's preferred will, i.e., his best offer, was filled with the faith that empowered him to not only be willing to suffer, but also to die. God's preferred will, i.e., his best offer, is only the beginning of defining the will of God. This week, we will go deeper and define the will of God through God's command.